I'm Rafal Brzoska. I come from beloved in Warsaw region, Silesia. As you probably know, we are talking in Silesia using a special type of Polish language. That's why I decided to present you something about translations, which I probably guess may help you with some problems, even with our Silesian language. Is there a talent or as far as I know, it's not fully official, but for example, when you go to Facebook settings, you can switch to Silesian, and it's fully translated. So if you want to have some really great fun, switch and try it. Okay. Okay, as I said, my name is Rafal Brzoska. I come from Gliwice, from a quite big company. It's a future processing. I'm the senior software developer, and I'm also Angular trainer. I'm also doing trainings for, I think it's a known company, Bottega. People probably know them from developers conference. A short agenda about today's speak. First, I will explain once again why I will talk about translations. Then I will shortly introduce you some differences between most known solutions and tell you why you should think about your custom translation or maybe internationalization solution. Next, about design. So, what we need to build such a simple library or module. Next, we will talk about translations, formats, and loading. How to load them. What formats do we know, and what formats will we use? About service, we build pipes and directives. The main mechanism used to translate our text on our web pages, in our application. And at the end, we'll take some time to talk about lazy loading, how to lazy load, how we should build this lazy loading mechanism to make it optimized and faster to our requirements. And at the end, about other ideas connected to translations. As we already know, we have a lot of problems with this topic. Who already has something to do with internationalization in Angular? And this is probably not an easy topic. More difficult, I think it's playing with time. This is more difficult than translation, but it's not easy. So we always have a problem with something like a format. There are a lot of standards and formats to use for translations. We have a lot of translation systems. We have a lot of libraries, but probably we know only the two most important for in Angular world. It's Angular, the default one, and NGX translations. But the problems are still there with communication with our users in different languages. You probably know this movie. That was most common and most known language problem. But it was, as you probably know, it was very briefly solved later. I don't know the English name of this movie, but in Polish it's Kapusniaczek. I can make us show. I can show the sound from this UFO man, but no, it's live and streaming. So there are another problems with translations. My solution will not translate images. This is not the case, but this is also quite big problem sometimes when you have to understand what is on our logo in some other languages. Okay, now more core knowledge. Who has used this Angular solution? Okay, and NGX Translate. Okay, so as you know, the main format for Angular solution is XLIFF. It has pluralization, it has placeholders, but the main thing which makes the developers angry is that it needs to build separate app for each language. There is no possibility to do runtime translation. You can translate strings, keys only in templates. You cannot translate in code. At least when I was trying to use this, there was not such a possibility. So, as I have said, it has no runtime changes possibility, and it's quite different to. It's quite difficult to make a setup for just-in-time and ahead-of-time compilation. So the whole development flow is quite difficult. NGX Translate supports JSON. Developers love JSON. Everybody knows that. Not everyone, not every JSON, but most of them. It has also pluralization and placeholder. It has a lot of bundling options. It has template and encode translations, so you can translate using pipes or directives in your template, and you can use some kind of services to translate encode and serve translated keys, for example, in some kind of pop-ups and so on and so on. It allows runtime language changes, and the main reason that in our company we didn't use it is uncertain future of the library. I'm not sure if you have read on GitHub. There is a issue quite long where the author of this library wrote that he is working now with Angular team on the Angular solution, and he is considering to make NGX Translate as a paid library. For now, it's still open source. It's, users are still supporting in this making pull requests, so it's living. But at the time we were considering, there was some time frame that it was not. We were not sure that it will be supported later. For example, when we were switching from Angular 5 or 4 to the next version. Now I think it's going quite good, but it's still a solution that you may depend your project on. But as you also as a developer know, Angular gives us a lot of mechanisms, a lot of tools to make things like even pop-up libraries, UI libraries, and so on, to make this by our own. So we don't need to depend on such a quite big libraries like NGX Translate, but we can really depend on ourselves, and everything is in our hands. So how to build our custom translation solution? Design requirements. Maybe I will first tell you that there are no code. There is no code on this presentations. I don't like pasting and cutting and editing code in presentations. So I will try to write like this library, and when we have no too much time at the end, we can finish it later, or I can push it on GitHub and we finish. I will finish it at home and push the final solution later after the GitHub. But I think we can try to write most of the functionalities. Design requirements. Our library should be an Angular module or Angular library. The difference is the library should be packaged. Now in Angular CLI version 6, it's quite easy. You just can generate library. In our example, we try to build on the module, but it's really there is a quite different thing I will mention about it, about lazy loading and dynamic imports, but this I think later. We'll support JSON. We will write translation schedules, translation pipe, translation directive. We'll also try to write lazy loading, and if there is enough time, we'll try to write something like context loading or placeholders for the translations. And at the end, we'll talk how to build fallbacks or where to write some kind of warnings when there is no translations. Because as you probably know, the really pros for Angular library for translation is that when there is no situation that there is no translation, because you may break the compilation. In the case of NGX translation, you may have such a situation that there is no translation. You have empty text, empty element in text. Okay, first service. Our service should have method that will load translations, that will append new translations. For example, when we lazy load our module, will not load all the translations at once on startup, but will load the translations only for the separate module as a lazy loaded translation. We will then append those new translations to the existing ones. We'll need to write something like a getter and setter with a snapshot or a stream with current language. We'll need to build translate. This translate method is a core method used in all the other mechanisms we have in our system. Pipe. What should have pipe? Pipe should translate our case. Does anyone have built their own pipe? It's quite easy. It's just implementing the interface with pure transform functions. It's the most easiest Angular element for Angular developer. We can apply a memorize there. I mostly used memorize function from Lodash. If you know other solutions or you want to write your own memorize function, you can do it by yourself. I strictly recommend Lodash. I really use Lodash also very often in my projects. What is different from other pipes, this pipe will be impure. Pure function changes or calculates or gives us new result only when it has new input. So if we have two arguments A and B, we have result A plus B, and it doesn't change until one of these arguments changes. When we change argument B, it changes. For impure pipe, it will just change for each change detection cycle. And our pipe should, of course, react. It's just a word. it should react on language change. Directive. That also it's for translating our case. We are using directive for replacing inner text and also for adding some types. For example, when we have some table that we don't have headers with text, we have headers with some kind of types for tooltips. We are using directive to pass the key, and the directive translates it and gives back the translated text. And of course, lazy loading. And there are two ways to do this properly. First one, I think the better one is to separate as a separate translation chunk. So we can tell the Angular compiler, I think it's Webpack, I'm sure it's Webpack, we tell Webpack that it should build own chunk with only with translations. Why such solution is better? Because we can put all our translation in separate directory, and we can, for example, make it as a separate GitHub repo or Git repo, and make another system that loads in this directory during our build or during our npm start and something like that, and pulls from the GitHub the directory of translations, and it's independent from our system. So we don't need to write the translation can be written by other people. It's the most known and best scenario for developers. Okay, next thing we should use for lazy loading is dynamic imports. With dynamic imports, there is a little problem because dynamic imports is ECMAScript 2018. Oh. It's the quite new feature in JavaScript, also in TypeScript, and we need to remember that there it should be targeted into ECMAScript 5 when we compile it to our final code, and this gives us a quite big problem because we cannot, for example, use dynamic imports in Angular libraries made by packager, ng packager. As you know, under the hood in our Angular CLI, there is ng packager, and ng packager use something like Angular package format. In Angular package format, there are three libraries packaged. It's a library built in ECMAScript 5, built in ECMAScript 6, and I think those two at least. And because the Angular package needs to have this Angular with ES6, we cannot use dynamic imports in lazy loaded in Angular libraries. You need to remember about this. I spent a lot of time to consider that it's impossible. Everything is possible, but it's not easy. How we do it? We just use import function. We can use some additional hidden comments. I will show you later how to do it with Webpack, which is Webpack chunk name and Webpack modes, most used options for Webpack import. It's really easy to do it in Angular. We don't need to eject our configuration to Webpack config or something like that. We just use the import keyword and import function for importing the dynamic modules. Okay, and placeholders. Placeholders is quite easy. Just additional function or using additional library like Mastake or other templatics engines to extract our placeholder. So we need to give somehow the keys the variables we want to take out and just change it to the variable data. Okay, some other ideas we want to or we may to implement. We will not implement it here. Is caching. We may cache somehow the data. It's very useful when we have really lot of translation, and the translation search may take some time. You can support the other formats. It's dependent from other tools, but it's possible in this way. In the other way, I think it's also every translation is possible. We can make a translation generator for other formats. We can connect with online translations API. For example, when you take too much pipes on your template, you probably know what it will do with your application. Okay, thank you. It's not the end. Now some code. I have already built or generated new application. Can you see, or should I make a bigger font size? Okay. It's okay. Or you want to have this dark background? I think this is more contrast. White is better. Okay. So I will switch to our requirements. I will switch to our requirements and write at least few of these elements to make this simple translation system working. Because, as you know, developers want some code. Okay. So first of all, we'll need to make something like a placeholder or directory or place where we will put our translations. I will generate a new directory. Translations. And put the two files. JSON. And or someone asked for Solution local. Yes, we have it. And we can put some translation. Let's consider that our keys should be English words, and we'll to these English words put our translations. So it will be a simple object where keys something, and in Polish it's coś tam. Let's religion. Maybe someone knows. There are a lot of words to describe this. But we can use popular. It can be things. So we have also something like a heister or a lot of another interesting words. For the beginning, I think it's okay. Now we set something like a configuration directory. and in our configuration, we need to load somehow our configurations to make them available to the compiler to compile it in our bundle. So we export this config. It will also be an object. And we have two languages, PL. There are more than this way, but I use required to load it. Webpack will parse it and add it to our bundle. We need to specify path for this, and of course we need to add some node types. Types node. Okay. Path of our translation JSONs. Translations. And the second key is it's
There are people.
Yeah. Okay, now we need to write our service that will load the default translations, and after that we need to add it to types. Let's do that. Mention now. I need to check. Required pockets. It's not required. Don't have to start this JSON. Types node. Okay, you will later find a solution for this. It will take too much time now for finding what's going on. Maybe some of you knows.
Just improve. We restart the
no, because it's inside node, just not recognized by the compiler. I don't know why. Please don't do that now. No. Types, compiler options. Types. What's here? Types. No. Yeah, rotation. To restart yourself because it knows the config calls again. No. If not, we'll put the translation just in the config file. Doubts. Oh, I like the screen. Okay, so yeah, it was that. We still need to remember about this using external libraries about types. This is a specific one because most of the typings we just need to install using these types dependency, but this is a specific one because it's either for imported for Webpack and also for the compiler, which is using Node, of course. Let's write our. One second. What you did? I put in the app configuration for the test configuration into the types array. I put the node types. Okay. Let's go back to the core of our application. Service. Please using also this UI tools from Web Store or your core console users.
I'm writing from scratch.
Yeah, I really I cannot do that. I really typical clicker. I need to everything click in there. I know what's going on under the hood, but maybe because I'm a Windows user, heavy Windows user, it's quite impossible. But it's true. Translate. No. Don't do that at home. Everyone know that we should write test for our services. I know what's problem. This is the case with presentation monitoring.
That's why it's easier to write from scratch.
No. It's because when doing a presentation, most webstone has some problems with indexing files. Okay, I'll go to the presentation. I think I can remember the names of those files. Presentation. Okay. So, we have our router here. Translation service. Okay, let's switch shortly to our requirements. First of all, we should load our translations. Append new translation. This will be used later. We have somewhere to store our language, our current language, and write a simple language switcher. It can be part of our module. It can be also written as a part of our application. Let's use our service to load the translations. Okay, we have something like a private translation table. Which is we can write a more specific type, but the translation is nothing complicated than a simple object. You can use any, but as you probably know, it's not. Or you can just initialize it. It's not a good solution to use any. As far as I remember, there is a new type in TypeScript 3. It's unknown, but it's not the case to use it here. We need to have something like a storage for our current language. Private current language, and it will be behavior subject. Behavior subject. I think everyone knows what is behavior subject and what's the difference between subject and behavior subject. Behavior subject is easily said quite fine observable which we may control, and we need to pass an initial value. So our initial value will be the first language we will have. Of course, this may be part of our config in the module, not just put it here, but we'll for simplicity just use this string to begin with Polish language hard-coded. Okay, current language, new behavior subject. We have certain indicator for our current language. Get foreign language snapshot. Just return this kind of language, and we can use something like a get value. It's only available for behavior subject because we are sure that we have an initial value. So there is no possibility to get a value from a string which doesn't have any. Another method for doing that is just returning an observable, but with pipe it was called share replay. When you call subscribe on a share replay observable, then you will get in a subscribe moment the latest value, like in a called observable, for example HTTP. But we will use the simplest method. We use get value. Okay, and of course we need to get current language. Which will be an observable. This current language. Yes. Observable. Is a good pattern to remember that we shouldn't return in any case the behavior subject or subject. To don't allow modify the stream outside the service. You always should use as observable. Okay, and first method, load translations. Translations, so object and language. Given key. Solutions. Okay. And of course, the most important function that we should use for in our translation mechanism is translate method, which should take two parameters: key and language. Language may be defaulted as our current language. So when we don't provide language, then it will be just translated in a given new or current language. It's a good case to use current language snapshot. In this simple case, we just return translation table. Table given language. course, it's not a good idea to provide in such a way. You should at least make a simple solution like a console world or something like that. That there is no such a key for this such translation for given key. So we need to check if language. Language and key, and if this, then provide else we may return just the key. It's I think, most common solution to not have just empty text, or we may return text. It depends on you, like other solutions in our library. And of course, also word. There is no translation. Okay. Key. Okay, so we have draft or the easiest way and easiest no, that's not this. Let's go to the app module. Now we should provide our translation. We have this translation. Translation service. Oh, okay. I know what's going on and what it was not indexed because it's inside top directory. Ooh, come on. Oh, let's set this. It's the difficult part of using UI for coding. Is it here? Yes. Okay. Go here. And this is the nicest part. Now it should. Service translate. Service. Okay. Thanks. Yep. Translate service. For production application, I recommend making a separate module and using a pattern with importing with a static method for root. So you provide with this method all services because it will be a singleton and will store the current language, for example, for the whole application. But in our simple case, we will just import it here and use it here. It is also important. I think we will not have too much time to write everything, but it's important also to know about that when using lazy loaded modules, because when the lazy loaded modules are loaded, they can make their own instances of services when they are initialized. So you should remember about that. Okay, let's load our app module. Load inside this app module, or maybe in app component. I would say only like text is Rafal in this case. And in this case also we choose the simplest way, but the best place for that is using app module with, for example, app initializer. There is some multi-token app initializer which is called and which is initialized before all the modules, eagerly loaded modules are initialized. So you can do this there. But in a simplest case, when it's part of your application, you don't need to load it in before the application loads. You can just use it in your root component. So we have private translator. This and just use it. So now we may use our configs. As I said, if you want, you can put the translations just directly in the config, but better solution is to have it in separate directory to, for example, make it independent from the system. What do you have here? Translation config PL for language PL, and you may load also the second. Okay, let's make something and just try it's working. We don't provide the language, so we should translate by default to Polish. Okay. But no, I think it's our translation social. So the next step is to write something that will manage our translation on our templates. It may be either directive or a pipe. We will use a pipe. I will show you the difference between impure and pure pipe. Let's look what we should do here. Okay. Oh, I can. It's because when we are creating or generating services, there are no added. They are not added to the engine module, and the pipes are. So we have an error now. Okay. Translate. Translate pipe. Okay. We need to eject. So that's bad behavior. Translator. Take service. And just translate. Okay, so now when we leave it as it is, we will write some kind of language switcher. Oh. Oh, we forget in our service language setting. Set language. String. This current language. Next. And language. It will put into the stream the next language and the mechanism from Zone.js will take it and try to refresh the view. Let's apply our app component. Translator. Set language. And just add some buttons. Yes. We can also use our pipe here. something. And of course, translate by translate can be found. This pipe. This pipe. Yes, there is. Look at the terminal. Something wrong? No. No errors. Okay, we have coś tam. And now it is not working because the value in the values provided to the pipe are still the same, and the pure pipe is caching the values for the same key. We need to tell the pipe that it should be impure and to refresh all the time. We have a new value. It's a good. So to set it impure, pure false. Now we have our simple translated system. I think we may finish. What time do we have? It's okay? Okay, so we can continue or maybe write something like dialectic or something more, because I don't know what that. Okay, so we'll finish at this moment. I think it's just an idea. It's quite easy to do. It was something like a tutorial for beginners, because using a pipe is the most easiest thing we can do with Angular. It's not such a complicated thing like writing an attribute or structural directive, but I think you've got the idea. I will push ready solution with lazy loading and more examples on my GitHub. Send it to Darek, and you will get it after that. Or I will just write in the comment in the meetup page. Okay, so. Now I can think I can switch to the last slide. Oh,